Hey, Camille, welcome to the show. As way of getting started, give us a little background on yourself.
All right. Thanks for having me. I love what you're doing, by the way. So it's fascinating to me to see all the different things that you do and really bringing your personality to it. So thank you for your work in this space. So Camille Clemens, I am the Director of Business Development at Cohen and Company, which is a CPA firm based in Cleveland, Ohio. We do work both on the private company side as well as the investment industry side. So my main focus is in the investment industry space. And I'm not sure how much time you have for the origin story of me, but I'll bring you up to. I grew up in the northwest suburbs of Chicago and still live in the area today. I attended a very small high school and purposefully attended a very small liberal arts college where I majored in business with an emphasis in sports journalism and a minor in leadership studies. My first job out of school was a fund accountant, and I managed to survive in the operational world for about 8 years, really learning like the fundamentals of our industry before moving on to the business side and eventually becoming a salesperson.
Well, you're the first accounting person that we've had on this show that turned into a salesperson. What was the motivation behind that?
So there was one event that happened where I was working on a public pension plan, and one of the
Exciting.
relationship managers, you don't really know it's not exciting until you realize it's not exciting.
Yeah.
And accounting is exciting to some people, and thank God for them.
Someone's got to do it.
Someone has to do it, and they do it really, really well
Yeah.
because they
And it
take a
has
lot
to
of
be
pride in
done.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it has to be done. Thank God it's done, right? So, a relationship manager had taken me on a visit to the client where we were kind of giving them their annual reports, and she allowed me to speak and to talk about the work that I'd done. And it was really in that engagement that I recognized, this is fun. Like, I'd way rather talk to people all day than make sure that I'm tied out at the end of the day. So that's kind of how it evolved.
And did that ever surface before then? Either in your social life or your personal life, or I saw you played sports in college and
I did. I mean, I wanted a job out of college, right? Like my main goal was to not move home, which I love my parents dearly, but at the same time, like it
enough.
was my
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
And so I found a firm that was willing and able to hire me. They saw something, and I'm forever grateful for those long nights and weekends putting in just getting financial statements out because it's given me a lot of work ethic. And I think that does stem from the athletics that are in my past. You have to work hard, and there's really no getting around that if you want to be successful.
Because when you think of accounting and accountants, I think it's the classic introvert, isn't it? People who like to work by themselves. It's a quantifiable. It's
Yeah,
a
there's
number's
some
the opposite
outliers
of
out there.
yeah.
There's some outliers.
Okay.
But generally speaking, you're right. I mean, it's typecast role. They're very detail oriented, technically proficient. Their main goal is to ensure that what they're producing is a quality piece of work, right? And I think there's a lot of parallels you can draw between accounting and sales because I approach my job the same way. Like I do the research, I'm fluent in my industry, I take pride in my work, and those things apply regardless if you're, you know, footing at the end of the month or working in sales.
But what doesn't apply is what's on the other end, right? The people, because they do not behave predictably or as predictably as we like.
You're right about that.
You
You're
notice
right
that
about
too?
that. 100%. I mean, decision making, especially in the environment we're in right now, is fascinating. Like, how did you end up there? And, it's our job on the sales side of things to really, I think you even talked about this morning, and I've been selling like this. I call it selling, but like I've really been solving problems like this a long time. So you figure out what the pain point is, and then you leverage your experience to kind of pick out those points in time where you've helped another client through that, or you've seen something that could help them through the situation. And I think the more you're familiar and you're fluent in your network, you can help somebody solve any problem they have. And really being that first call for them to say, Camille, I'm not sure that you're going to have this answer, but you probably can help me figure it out. Like that to me is the holy grail.
And I ironically just got off an interview where the rep said, what I find most powerful is solving problems. When I wake up in the morning and I hear about problems, I just put a smile on my face because now I
That's
have something to talk about or with.
right.
But how much of your selling is to cold people who don't know who your firm is?
Well, my goal is to never make a cold call. Like I can find an in no matter what I work in an industry that's very tight knit, right? And I feel like along the way you pick up people who, as long as you're like genuinely interested in
Them?
relationships, like
Yeah.
not doing it because you're going to make a ton of money. Like sure that's going to come, but you have to do it first. Like you have to put in the time and really be interested in people and in solving problems, and not just for this one thing, but like generally. Yeah,
And
so I'm not sure that answers the question, but I do think it fundamentally requires a level of interest that, like, I'm very grateful that I'm a curious person.
right. And I think that curiosity, because what I'm learning about curiosity, it's the first step to so many things. It's the
Sure.
first step to interest. It's the first step to passionate about what you do. How
Yeah.
can you be excited about what you do if you're not curious about it?
Well, and please tell me you're excited about what you do. If you don't have that, then what are we doing here?
Yeah. And what I meant about cold was I got to believe that you call on people or talk with people who are kind of at even keel. They're comfortable. They want to be comfortable, but you've got to find something that they shouldn't be comfortable about.
Yeah, you're right. The new business side of my job is really, really time consuming. So
Oh,
it's time consuming to understand, right, what those pain points are. It's extra time consuming to figure out how they apply to the universe in which you work. And then third, to figure out what is it that our firm could do to help them solve for that. So I don't like to go into a conversation not understanding, at least foundationally, what a firm is about. So there's a genuine amount of research that's done in advance of picking up the phone. And I'm old school, right? Like I've grown up in this like hand-to-hand combat, and the human interaction to me is way more valuable than sending out form letters. And to me, that's the ultimate cold call, is if you're just blanket sending the same thing to anyone who will maybe pick up the mail.
yeah.
Like I would way rather save the energy and resources and do like some very targeted outreach to people who I know will fit what it is we can help them achieve, right? So I don't know if I'm answering your question, and I'm not dancing around the concept of cold calling, because I do think there are people I talk to who I just don't know, which is where the genuine curiosity comes in. Like I just I love to ask questions and I love to hear their answers. And from there, I'm just kind of picking out what's relevant.
Because curiosity and interest in the other person is a give, even though it's not a
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
Because it's really hard to ignore somebody who's curious and interested in you and what you think.
Well, and I picked you for a reason, right? Like I'm calling you. I'm not sending that letter to 1,000 people. I called you. And that in itself, I think, is a leap of faith that you've got to at least be comfortable enough to know that you can probably help them in some way.
Yeah. And what's the hardest part of your job?
The hardest part of my job. I don't know. Right now, the hardest part of my job is not seeing people.
Yeah.
It's trying to be creative and still be kind of in all the places I want to be without actually physically leaving this chair for 12 hours a day. like
You were
it's
a field person before this, right?
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I've gone from maybe 60% of my time on the road to now 100% of my
your
time
time?
in this
No.
chair. Yeah.
And have you found anything that works for you now that it's been a while, that you've found your groove, or is it still uncomfortable?
I think all the field time that I spent building those relationships and really educating the marketplace on who we are and what we do is actually coming back to help at the moment. So I feel like we're in this really weird phase where it's easier for someone to say, I'm going to go in a different direction because they're not looking at you and sitting across from you.
Yeah.
And it might be a little bit easier to make a different decision than they would if they were sitting across from you, because there's a little less personal um, attention paid to now it's just a process, right? Like, I need an auditor, I need somebody to do my taxes, let me just go find someone. Where before we actually had the chance to like build the rapport. And
Right.
now I feel like we're leveraging those relationships that we've spent years building. And you know my most gratifying moments are when I get a call from someone saying, hey, I heard from so and so that this is the call I needed to make because you guys are right for us. Like, for me, having someone selling for us when we can't be in that room where it happens, that's like 100 times victory, right?
And what motivates you as a rep?
I believe in our industry, and I believe that the investment industry is stronger when things are done properly. And
Yeah.
I know that we do that. I know that we help people live the lives they are trying to live. I guess if you're going to boil it down to kind of what motivates me. And I know that we do it really well and with passion and with precision.
And how do you not fall into that commodity trap? Because I got to believe that everybody that you're talking to that doesn't really know you wants to put you in. We're all set. We've got somebody. We got or we somebody internally. My cousin's brother's friend is great.
It's a really good question, because it's obviously easy to view the world of public accounting as a commodity, right?
Yeah.
And the like the differentiator that we bring to the marketplace and the real value that I think that we lean on every day is we work best with those who take this seriously. They believe in the power of partnering with a firm that can help you do it right. Whether it's your tax structuring for a new fund product that you're launching, or it's working through like any of the accounting standards that you're not quite sure how to handle. So you can go to the biggest of the big and have kind of a name on your annual reports. You're probably not going to get a ton of attention, right? Especially if you're not the biggest of the big. Or you can go with the kind of more regional player who can do the work and arguably does it well, especially when things are simple. But when these technical accounting issues come up and you really need someone who can help you navigate the changing landscape that is investment management, like, you need someone who's going to pick up the phone when you call. And you're going to need someone who, if they aren't the ones who have experienced this with their clients before, they have somebody in their team that has, and they can easily go out and source that person and bring them to the table and say, let's work through this. And I think that that's a really unique place that we sit in the market that may be unmatched by our peers, because we really do take it seriously and we live and breathe this. This is all we do.
Yeah. And is it like law firms? Like law firms, the partners go out and drum up business. In accounting firms, is it the
Yeah.
same way, or do they just try and rely on referrals and networking and
Historically.
yeah,
So this firm is about 40 years old,
is that
and
all?
I am, right. I, um, from the investment industry standpoint, I'm the first outside salesperson that's been brought in to kind of serve in this capacity. So historically, there's been a group of partners that have gone out that have built the relationships that really have built this business to where we are today. And if you look back, that's a really impressive
It
accomplishment.
is.
So
Yeah.
going from, the roots of the business in Cleveland, Ohio, back in 1977 to now we have 10 offices with 650 professionals in the span of 40 years. I mean, without major acquisition and major like purchasing of accounts and things just to bolster up our size, like we've been responsibly grown. And I think that's what keeps us resilient in the marketplace. So to answer the question, yes, it's similar to a law firm in the fact that the professional partners, the ones that are out there as client partners, are building relationships with influencers in the marketplace, are working with the boards of trustees that govern some of the funds that we work on, are working with the third party service providers to ensure that we have healthy dialogue. And when we are developing things, we know that they know what we're doing. Um, so that's how we got to where we are. But it became an inflection point when we're now at a point where we're legit. So we're big enough where we feel that we've built a really resilient business with super smart people. And so let's see what happens if we bring in someone who's specifically focused on new business. And in that development of kind of my role, it's been interesting to try and figure out where my place is. And I think it's been really humbling to walk into a room of really smart people and feel like I have a role. And it's very gratifying to see that, my definition of a team is your ability to bring out the strengths of everyone around the table because everyone has a role. And so sitting next to a technical expert that thinks about things one way, and then me looking at things from a completely different perspective really does give our client kind of a unique view into our collective experience.
And how did you learn the complexities of a complex sale? Was it just trial and error? Was there a mentor?
Yeah, I'm relentless, right? So I think having an operational foundation for me to build my sales um, experiences on is I rely on that every day because I can always come back to, yes, I know what it is we're delivering because I've done it. Like I've done the work and I know what it means to screw it up. So this is why we have to make sure that everything is done properly, because if it isn't, I know what that feels like. So for our clients, they know that like that exists. So my sales journey has been really, really unique. I took the leap of faith back in 2000. I'm aging myself. It's fine. 2008. So roughly the time of probably late 2007, which is even worse. Yeah, a couple things happened around that time. Um, but I moved onto the business side when I recognized that this is where I wanted to be at the moment. And let's see if this is going to work out. If it doesn't, then I'm really grateful for the experiences and my understanding of the back office. I can not easily, I'm not taking it for granted, but there's probably going to be a place for me there if this doesn't work out. So my first job in sales was supporting a global team. So it was really a lot of research, presentation prep, some inbound call taking, really responding to RFPs, and really understanding how the sales cycle works. And I'll never forget one of the salespeople that I worked with at one point. He asked me to put something together for a client. He was dropping off a package, and he wanted me to put mints in this package. And we had these little tins of mints, and there was no real way to present it nicely, right? So it looked like something we would want to give as a gift. And so I dumped him in a bag. And he looked at me, he's like, "Is that what you want us to look like?" And I said, and we didn't see eye to eye on a lot of things, but there were certain points in my career where something like that really left a mark. And that was 12 years ago. So, I mean, it's those little things you pick up along the way from the people that you've seen be successful
Yeah.
that I rely on kind of throughout. And then I read a lot. My mom asks me, "Do you need really to listen to another podcast about this?" And I said, it's my response, like, this is my job. This is my livelihood. Yes, I need to listen to another book or another podcast because things are changing.
Well, and that's it because accounting is kind of a classic, do you know it? Versus sales is how well do you do it?
So it's funny. I often draw the parallel, or I feel the need to delineate the difference between the sales process and the buyer's journey
Yeah.
because they're very different.
Right.
And just because I think I need it to go here next, that client might not be ready for 6
Yeah.
months. I mean, maybe never, but it's funny. You figure out what works, and the more you want something, and we do have prospects where we really want to make sure that like this is ideal, and this is a client we would love to earn. You just find creative ways of being relevant and you keep them in mind. And I feel like it's part of the process, both on the sales side and the buyer side, because you are needing to ensure that you stay relevant to your best prospects. And you never know when that one thing that you send them, or that one phone call that you make to say, hey, did you see this, or whatever it is to make, to make the call. You never know when that one thing is going to be the one thing.
Yeah.
And so I think I take this really seriously because I love the challenge of winning.
And do you have other salespeople, other people who have the same role as you or a similar role?
So in the investment industry portion of our business, no, I'm the only person kind of responsible for this. We do have a very robust marketing team that was put in place a couple of years ago, so it's been fun to do projects with them and
Yeah.
kind of trial and error. And we put in a CRM, and what does that look like, and how do we leverage that? And um, so no, I'm the only one in the investment industry. There are a couple of other people who focus on the private company side of our business, and we've started to create this little team within, because it's just nice to know you've got someone else who understands what you're going through.
Yeah, because it's very unique, especially when you haven't done sales either before. It's just how do you kind of gauge yourself as a am I doing the right things? What because I always had like, what would this person do? And I had like a role model or not
Yeah.
wasn't an active mentor. It was just me observing them. And like, why did they do this? Why didn't they do that? Like the candy in the bag thing.
Yeah. So, I mean, here, no, I don't have anyone else that's done it. And this isn't the first time I've been kind of out there as a one of one.
Yeah.
So my last role, I was the only US employee, so responsible for growth of a firm in a market that they were just entering. So they were looking for acquisition, they were trying to figure out what the landscape looked like. They brought me in to try and help foster that along. And so being of one is challenging. And I found after 18 months that that was not ideal for me. I need the energy of a team and people and collaboration. And
Yeah.
I've known the company that I'm with now for about 10 years, and we've done a lot of referral business back and forth over the years. And one of the reasons that I would refer business to them is because I knew they know what they were talking about. I knew that they would respond as I would because they care about their clients. And then at the end of the day, when they were looking to fill this role, it was a perfect match.
Yeah. And what do you wish you knew when you first started this role that you know now? Either an epiphany or a mindset.
I wish that I had learned patience and
Yeah.
real patience,
Yeah.
real patience. You can be fake patient, meaning you just every 10 seconds you click refresh as opposed to every 1 second you click refresh to see if they've responded yet, right? So patience is certainly something that I've learned, and kind of, I'm going to call it loosening the grip a little bit. Um, I think it's one thing to be passionate about what you do and really want to succeed. And it's another thing about being obsessed with it.
Yeah.
And I found that if I can just kind of let it go, have its path, run its course, while being mindful of where it is and not neglecting it, but also not like being all up in its grill the whole time. I think that's where the patience, the ability to just like it's got to do its thing, right? I can't see it ever. I can't micromanage the process.
Yeah.
It's like raising kids. Like they're gonna
Right.
do what they do, right? You can be there as a guide for them. You can help them, but you can't like tie their shoe until they're 20. Like so I've learned patience. I've learned to just kind of let it sit for a little bit. Don't be too manic about it. Don't be too obsessive about it. I wish I'd learned that earlier.
Yeah. Cool. Hey, this has been a fun conversation. Where can people go to connect and follow you?
Sure. So I'm on LinkedIn and I'm on Twitter. So LinkedIn is Camille Clemens, Chicago based. So you can find me that way. Or Twitter is Camille E. Clemens. And then we also have cohencpa.com, which is our company's website.